This would be more interesting if we had a fourth guy at the table and Mike Tomlin, because we're going to talk about the Steelers now. First time in 20 years that they're going forward without Mike Tomlin as the head coach. They were 10-7 last year. Plus 5,000 Super Bowl odds, 50-1, 10th best in the AFC. Wide open, half open, closed for the Pittsburgh Steelers under Mike McCarthy.
Closed. I just don't see this team having a chance to compete for a Super Bowl. I just think that's a stretch. I think Aaron Rodgers, was this first came about what you're saying is I think he's still playing at a good enough level to go out there and compete. I don't see this team in that division being able to outlast Baltimore, to handle what Cincinnati brings this year. I think they finished third in that division. I don't see it for them at that level. They have, T.J. Watt. Is he also now in that boat of he's still a good player, but not as great as he used to be? You got Cam Hayward. You have a lot of different pieces that are older players that are still competing, similar to Aaron Rodgers, that I don't know if we have that blend that you kind of see in Kansas City with some of the young players. I think that's the hard thing for them of having a chance to really compete for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, the tricky one for me is Mike did such a great job there for so long. And there's a culture that has existed in Pittsburgh for a long time since Chuck Noll showed up there. And somehow they've been able to carry that over. But Mike added so much to it. They were a really tough team to play against. I mean, you played against them a ton. And so can they maintain that spirit? Mike McCarthy's going to do it very differently. Yes. I think it's a great hire. Bring the Pittsburgh guy home, reunite him with the quarterback, all of that stuff. Mike McCarthy's going to do a great job there. I actually disagree with you on the division. Cleveland might surprise people. I don't think they're great. Cincinnati will get better on defense, but still I think there are real questions about that. And there's some questions in Baltimore just with John Harbaugh not being there. So I do think the window in the division is as open as it's been in recent years for me. All the questions that you raised are real. Quarterback is a hard position to play. When you're 42 years old, week after week after week, to play at the level you need to play at. So, again, you hear me say this a lot. If they can spread the burden around, not make it all about Aaron Rodgers every week, that's what gives them their chance. The biggest question for me is Mike McCarthy after Mike Tomlin. Can they maintain that same kind of edginess that Mike Tomlin always had in his teams? I think that will help them because it's going to be a gritty division, and they're going to need some grit as the season goes on.
Well, McCarthy comes out last week and says they're not going to tackle to the ground at training camp, and then after yesterday's first padded practice of training camp, Jaylen Warren, who's been there 5 years, said it was the most tame, uneventful first padded practice he had ever experienced. They're setting up a very clear, bright line if they fail to why they failed. And those Pittsburgh folks are going to say, we weren't physical enough, you weren't tough enough on them in practice, and that's why we're 7-10. They didn't have a losing season one year. How hard is that in the NFL?
Hard.
When everybody's trying to win every game, everybody's knocking on the door, and to not have a losing season in 19 years, in a generation, Mike Tomlin did not have a losing season one time. That is amazing.
It's really hard. And people, in some ways they disparage that because they need to go further. How many teams would love to have the record that they've had over the last 20 years? Probably 28 or 29 other teams would love to do what they've done. Let's go back to the physical nature of practice. Mike McCarthy's been a very successful coach in the NFL for a long time in different places. He has a certain style. He clearly believes in the health of the player. We're not going to lose players on the practice field, all of that. Sean McVay probably has a similar philosophy. I personally feel like having harder practices, challenging guys physically and mentally in practice, making an intense environment, I think that helps you develop the calluses you need. That's how I grew up in football. But different guys have different philosophies on that. So let's just let the thing play out.
Yeah. And it's hard. I know even the year I retired and when Gerard Mayo took over in New England, every question that every player is going to get when a coach has been there for a long time is, hey, you were full pads today. Different? The same as Mike Tomlin practice? So they're going to have to deal with that. And I think the best thing they can do is when they get asked questions like that is just say, hey, we're here now under Mike McCarthy. when you start talking about what you did, I just think it creates more pressure for the coach that's not necessary. I agree with you. It's not a problem for Mike McCarthy. He's been a long-time head coach. He could care less probably about the comparison, but it's just going to be a natural thing for everyone in Pittsburgh to compare everything they do this year to the 19 seasons prior, which when you actually think, it just doesn't matter.
It doesn't, but it does. It does. It's going to matter to the fans if they realize the team isn't what it was under Mike Tomlin.
We were there. The fans were like, they wanted to change more than anything. Yeah. So if you do change and then the next head coach comes in and does the same exact things that the other coach did, they would be complaining about that. Right. So it's just, it's one of those situations when you replace someone who's had success and been somewhere for a long time, the results are what's going to matter more than anything.
That Packers game was jarring to see how many Packers fans were there.
Yep.
And they got louder and they got louder as that game went on, and it just felt flat. But still, 19 straight non-losing seasons is incredibly impressive.
But that's an old story in football. The Packers travel well. The Steelers travel well. The Steelers travel all over the country, and they have a similar feeling. So, you said it. It's going to matter how they do, the results, the record, and then the narrative will follow that.
Yep.
Hi, it's Mike.
What if everybody is asking the wrong question about DJ Moore? Maybe the question is not whether Moore is already a top 5 receiver. Maybe the real question is this: what happens when a proven playmaker finally gets Josh Allen throwing him the football? Because that debate got heated, and I understand both sides. One analyst called Moore the missing piece. Another basically said, slow down, Buffalo. Buffalo needs more than one receiver to win the Super Bowl. Fair enough. The AFC is loaded. The Chiefs are still there. Baltimore is still dangerous. Houston, Denver, and New England believe they are coming. Nobody is handing Buffalo anything. But come on now. Let us stop acting like adding DJ Moore is some minor upgrade. This is a player with 4,000-yard seasons who spent most of his career catching passes from quarterbacks nowhere near Josh Allen's level. He produced with constant changes around him, battled through unstable situations, and still proved that he can win after the catch, stretch a defense, and create explosive plays. Now he gets Josh Allen, the same Josh Allen that the panel called Superman. And honestly, what else are we supposed to call him? Buffalo reached the AFC Championship game without the kind of established #1 target that every defense has to locate before the snap. Allen kept extending plays, running through defenders, escaping pressure, and turning broken situations into offense. He has been asked to carry the cape, save the drive, and rescue the season over and over again. At some point, Buffalo has to give Superman real help, instead of just admiring how much weight he can carry. DJ Moore does not have to become Jamar Chase overnight. He does not have to lead the NFL in receiving yards. He needs to become the receiver Josh can trust when it is 3rd and 8, the pocket is collapsing, and the entire stadium knows where the ball needs to go. That is what Buffalo has been missing. A player who can win early in the route, fight through contact, and give Allen a clear answer when the play starts falling apart. And let us talk about the rest of this offense, because people are pretending Moore is walking into an empty room. James Cook just led the entire NFL with 1,621 rushing yards. Think about what that means for a defense. Stack the box to stop Cook, and Josh can attack outside with Moore. Keep a safety over Moore, and Buffalo has lighter numbers for the running game. Try to play man coverage, and now you're asking one defender to survive against a receiver who has already produced without an elite quarterback. That is not an accessory. That changes the math. Now, are the concerns completely wrong? No. Buffalo still has to protect Allen against the best pass rushes in the conference. The defense has to prove it can make the final stop when everything is on the line. Moore cannot fix every weakness by himself, but nobody said he had to. The Bills were already close. They were already winning the division, reaching championship games, and forcing the AFC's best teams into heavyweight fights. The idea is not that DJ Moore turns a bad team into a contender. The Bills are already a contender. The idea is that he can turn one of those failed playoff possessions into a touchdown. 1 third down, 1 minute to go. 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 1 third do one contested catch, one moment where Josh doesn't have to create the impossible because his receiver simply wins. That is the difference between going home and finally kicking that door open. And Josh said it himself. Buffalo has kept knocking, and eventually that door has to open. Well, maybe Moore is the player holding the battering ram. ESPN's league survey already placed Allen at number 1 among quarterbacks entering 2026. The football world knows what Buffalo has at the most important position. The question is whether the team around him is finally dangerous enough to finish the job. I believe it is closer than the critics want to admit. Moore brings proven production, Cook controls the ground game, and Superman is still wearing number 17. Now, DJ Moore does not guarantee a Super Bowl. Nobody does. But he gives Josh Allen something Buffalo desperately needed, a proven weapon who can make the difficult play feel normal. Bills Mafia, tell me the truth. Is DJ Moore the missing piece, or does Buffalo still need one more major move before the playoffs? Drop your opinion in the comments, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay locked in, because the AFC may be getting stronger, but the Buffalo Bills just got stronger too.